Hello and welcome to Fast Talk Episode 3, Rule of Law. With me today is Odie, and I am, as always, Kihota. We spent, over the weekend, the Lawbreakers Alpha test happened. I got in this weekend, and I was able to play for the first time. Odie's been in the previous couple weekends, uh, and he's had more playtime than me when it comes to that. Uh, but I got my first chance to try the game, and I figured I'd do an episode about it. It's interesting. I very much feel that there's a lot of room for improvement. Um, my thoughts on it are they're kind of iffy right now, but it's very early in alpha. But that excuse can only get you so far, and we'll talk about that more in a bit. Od, from what you've played of it, what do you think of it?
It's a game that has a lot of potential, and the founding of it is by Cliff Bleszinski's new studio called Boss Key Productions. If you're not familiar with Cliffy, he did Unreal Tournament, Jazz Jackrabbit, and a lot of those old games back in the '90s. And if you're not familiar with those, he more, recently did the Gears of War series, which kind of like stirred him into stardom, I suppose, outside of the arena shooters era. So this new game that they made, there's a lot of homage and a lot of gameplay from the '90s there, and you can tell that Boss Key Productions is trying to bring that back. There's no aim down or no aim mountain where they just got rid of that. They try to like influence more bunny hopping with this most recent patch by adding in like skipping is called or something like that. There's also a large progression amount of a speed to be held, especially when you're going through like these zero G areas in the game, which it's as they sound. There's zero G, and you can fire behind you to pick up speed, and then you can imagine bunny hopping while doing that to speed up to your destination. There isn't any strafe turning or anything like that I've seen so far, but this is a work in progress, and in that case is that they want you to give as much feedback as possible. So if you
Yeah,
do get invited, they literally say this game is broken, we want you to break it some more, and there's some things that are missing here and there, but overall it's a game that I feel has a lot of potential, but it's going to take the community as a whole and the developers as a whole to really get it where it's at. It's a fast game. Is it as fast as Titanfall 1? No. Is it as fast as Quake? No. But it's faster than Overwatch, and it's a lot faster than most of the modern FPSs out there. And
yeah,
it's going in the right direction. I could do with a bit more speed, and I think everybody can agree with that a little bit.
yeah. They actually upped the speed previously once before, and I think they could up it a bit more. When it comes to you saying giving feedback and all that stuff, I agree. This is a kind of a new era of game development where it's like, oh, we released our game really early, and we want you to test and give feedback on it. I'm going to say one thing when it comes to stuff like that. I think a lot of people, including me, uh, and it's not Bosky's fault at all. I don't think it is at all. I think it's more than their fault. But a lot of us as a whole are getting really, I'd say, almost tired, like exhausted with these early access alpha kind of things. And like I remember you saying yesterday, oh, it's not early access, and well, it's not called early access, but it's the same kind of principle. It's our game is super early. We want you to play it and test it and do stuff with it. Um, but as a whole, I've noticed that, and Fex was like this as well. Like there is, but like there's definitely reasons for this kind of game development. Like there is. I'm not saying there isn't, and it's worked out for some people before, but a lot of us are getting tired of playing a game that's in a really unfinished state, and then like, oh, say it and play it some more and improve it. It's like a lot of us just want the game when it's done,
Right.
and this way also. I'm gonna talk about more of my feelings on this in a bit, but this way also tends to sour the game before it can even come to its full potential in people's mouths.
Yeah.
Gamers as a whole, like right now, like the gamer base is very fickle. If a game doesn't immediately grab their attention, then they're just gonna forget it. And unfortunately, I don't think in this initial offering and this initial alpha stage, the game does enough to grab your attention. First off, the battery mode, the current game mode they have. Uh, it's not that good. It's really kind of boring. What it comes down to, the way it works, is there's a battery in the middle that has a shield around it. You stand next to the battery to get rid of the shield. Once the shield's gone, you pick it up, you put it in your charging station. The enemy team tries to steal their charging station, steal from your charging station, and bring it back to theirs by doing the same thing as picking it up initially. Um, Now, the battery retained is charged, so whoever gets to gets to do 100 and holds it for like 16, 17 seconds or something like that first. 20 seconds. The first, then gets the point. It's first of the two. I don't think it's that deep. I don't think it's that engaging. And I've always hated game modes that have those major upsets. It's one of the things that I'm still kind of about in Overwatch, is the fact it can go from, wow, I did really good, to, oh, we lost the point, like a single bit.
Agreeable.
Yeah. There is more game modes. Like, there's 4 slots in the UI right now for game modes, so there's obviously going to be more. And Odie said this wasn't planning to be their main one. It was just one they threw in there. I do think they maybe should have started off with a different game mode. I don't really like this one at all.
I think as a whole, it gets the game mechanics down. It just doesn't execute them well enough to affect like a good game design. No.
Yeah.
The thing about powering up that battery is that it can't be stopped. Like, there's no like progress. Everybody shares the same progression with the battery, which is a big problem already. So you can get up to like 99%, and then some guy steals it, and it's like, well, there you go, all that work for nothing.
Yeah, that ticks people off majorly.
Yeah. And there's no incentive to just go out. If you wanted to, you guys could just, kill each other until the battery gets up to 70%. That's it,
Yeah.
And they know about this. They know about it. They're like, yeah, we know. We're not working on battery mode as our main game mode, but we are gonna, fix it down the road. And it's hard to say what their new game mode will be, but there will be a domination mode coming up. I know that, which I think will be much better personally.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and also possibly a CTF, who knows, which I think would be hands down the best. They said they will be bringing in classic game mode from, older games. But you won't be seeing some crazy shit like, fucking a bounty hunter or something like that from Titanfall, or, anything like that.
Bounty hunter?
Yeah, or no, what was it called? Bounty hunter or Pilot Hunter?
Pilot hunter. That was just TDM, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Yes, it was just TDM without.
Okay.
Chronos.
Marked for Death is the other one. I'm sorry.
Marked for Death is
that one. Yeah. Which again is kind of like an upset one too if you don't have a good team.
Well, Mark for Death Pro actually, and Mark for Death wasn't that bad. I just think it came like into the public consciousness at a time where everybody stopped caring, so it didn't go over well.
I just hate Titans and Mark for Death. I prefer infantry based.
Yeah.
Going back onto Lawbreakers though. So you were saying about them releasing the game early and you're getting tired of it. That's totally understandable. I've had that before. I've played like a bunch of other shitty games before that ended up not being so great. But I will say this though, the dev team is super like on point when it comes to
responding. And I wanted to make a note of that. Actually, I have that written down right here. The devs are super active. I actually posted about, and this is what I'm going to actually go into next. I posted on the forums because I couldn't find any video settings, and VSync was on by default, which obviously creates mouse delay and is really not fun to play with. And mouse acceleration was also on, which obviously is not good to play with either. Those two things can very much kill a game. If you can't turn them off. And I went in there and I'm like, okay, Unreal is a config. Every Unreal game has had a config. So I went looking for it everywhere and I couldn't find it. So I'm like, okay. I posted in technical. I'm like, do you know where does anyone know where the config file is? I just can't find it. And within 5 minutes, the dev was like, the config file isn't available right now. It's still locked down. We aren't releasing it yet. And I'm like, oh, well, that's a disappointment. I really didn't I don't really want to play this game with VSync and mouse acceleration turned on. That's not fun for me. And the devs said something that I don't agree with in the slightest. I'm gonna just come out and say it right now. They said that mouse acceleration and VSync were both advanced options, and they weren't going to be in at this stage of development. I think that's a massive cop-out answer, especially for something that directly affects mouse movement. If you can test gameplay, and if you're testing gameplay as we speak, you should have at least the bare minimum of video options in, and that includes VSync and control settings like mouse acceleration. Even if you don't, you should have a config file able to change those. It's not fun to play a game with mouse acceleration and VSync. It's not fun at all, and it in fact actually. I want to bring this up because basically every single person that's tried it this weekend for the first time has said the exact same thing. They're like, "Wow, my mouse feels like it's moving through molasses," and they played like 1 or 2 games, and they're like, "Yeah, no, I can't deal with this. I'm done." Three separate people on the Titanfall community side of things said that. Two people, TFG said that, and then I had three people from a Black Desert Online group say the exact same thing, and they were like, I can't play this game with this on. I'm sorry, I just can't do it.
Understand.
Yeah, and that's like, they use the alpha excuse. They're like, it's an alpha. We don't really have those settings in yet, so we'll see later on.
But I guarantee you, if you pressure them enough,
they're gonna add that in eventually. But I think it's a real cop out answer to use alpha for that. It's you should have they have shadows in. They have 4 basic graphic settings. It's like ultra, high, medium, low, and then they have shadow settings under custom. If they have shadow settings, then you should at least be able to turn off VSync and mouse acceleration. I mean, come on. It's something that directly, even beyond a performance aspect, something that directly affects the enjoyment of the game for people and their ability to test it. And as that is an FPS, you're going to draw the FPS community. And the FPS communities in general really, really do not deal well with having those options locked on.
That's true. Yeah. I might throw them a question and say, hey, can we get a Quake configuration in the future? Something like that, just to bring down the graphics to Crayola fucking style.
Well, yeah, and I don't even need Crayola style. I just need no mouse lag, and that's really all I'm asking for. The graphic settings, performance-wise, I that's fine. The fact that I can't change those around completely is fine. But VSync and mouse acceleration in particular are a direct. If you're testing gameplay, that's a direct thing that will affect gameplay for people.
Yeah, definitely. I think the big thing though is just like I said, keep telling them that,
Yeah.
Just keep telling them that, because a while back in the first patch, people were saying it's too slow. We got to
and they changed it, and that's another thing. That's why I wanted to say this first, is that they the developers are very active and they're very on the ball. They are. I've interacted with them myself. I mean, like I said, I got a response in the first 5 minutes. That's really, really good, especially for stuff like this.
You don't get that kind of things from most companies.
Yeah, there are balance issues, but I'm going to completely ignore those for right now, because you can use the alpha excuse for that. That is perfectly acceptable to use the alpha excuse for, and I don't think you should judge the game based on balance at this early on.
Do you want to go on about the classes and stuff?
Yes, I was actually just about to go into that. So there's 4 classes in right now. Have they said what the 5th one is yet, OD?
No, I have no information on that one.
Okay. The 4 classes are the Enforcer, and OD, you can take that one away.
So the Enforcer is your standard rifle guy. Think Call of Duty almost. He's kind of unique though. Every character in this game has a mobility option of sorts. His is necessarily to speed himself up, and by himself I also mean his weapons and everything that he does. He has an accelerator that makes him jump, double jump, and makes him run faster, makes him reload faster, makes him shoot faster, everything faster.
User in your channel timed out.
Texas Internet.
Right. So back onto the accelerator. The accelerator essentially makes him do everything faster. He shoots faster, reloads faster, moves faster, and he can double jump. This is really unique for him because he's basically one of the best 1v1 fighters right now. If you can know how to track people down and get your headshot dinks off, basically, if you like the style of just having a rifle in your hand and a lot of versatility at the same time with a good amount of HP too, he's the right guy for you. The only thing he's not good at is crowd control. When he has to fight more than one guy, that's where his biggest weakness is. And of course, he has his ultimate. Everybody has an ultimate in this game. He has a rocket launcher on the back of his back of his left side there, and the cool thing about this rocket launcher is that over time it powers up and it gets you a volley every 15 seconds or so, somewhere around there. But get this, you can kill people or get assist kills, and they'll drop a rocket volley from the corpse that you kill, and that helps charge up your meter even more, which you can get a total of 4 volleys of rockets. And of course, the more volleys, the more damage, and the less likely the enemy is going to avoid your rockets.
Right. So when you shoot these volleys, do you have to shoot all of them?
Yes, you have to shoot all of them. Once you press Q, there'll be a red laser that pops up, and the laser cannot be turned off. You cannot put it away. Once you hit it, that's it. You better find something to shoot and fire away. And it can be fired manually too. It doesn't have
dumb
to be
rockets
locked
as
on.
well.
Yeah.
And then everybody has a unique grenade. Well, what is his?
Yes. So his grenade is essentially a silence. That's the best way I can describe it. If you get near it, you cannot use any of your other abilities. You can use your mobility abilities though, but you just can't use your grenade. You can't use your your jump or whatever. Anything like that that is specifically binded to a character as an ability cannot be used.
Okay.
Which is very good for again lockdown. He excels at 1v1s.
Yeah. Okay, and then there is 3 other classes. Their next is Vanguard, I believe, the flying one.
That's right. That's
okay,
my
what does she
personal
do?
favorite. So Vanguard, it has a built-in rocket pack on her, and instead of course, moving her forward, or sorry, moving upward, it moves her forward instead, and she can zoom around the map and bunny hop at the same time, and she's essentially the fastest class in the game because she's able to just constantly just take off and steer, and it feels really smooth to fly around with her. There's a lot of speed, and if you're used to Titanfall, you'll most likely either like the Vanguard or the Assassin the most, hands down. Her tool set, outside of the jetpack though, she has a pulsar, which is her melee essentially, and that it does a tremendous amount of damage depending on how close they are. Obviously, the closer they are, point blank damage. It does about 250 damage or so. It's
I've definitely gotten
ridiculous.
wrecked by that quite a few times. Getting too close.
Now the thing about it though is that the drawback is that it also uses some of her jet fuel though, and once you run out of jet fuel as Vanguard, you're a sitting duck. It's the worst possible feeling.
Yes, I've also noticed that doing her or if you run out of jet fuel, like if you're completely out of it, it takes longer to recharge the full than it does if you just let it recharge normally.
Yes, and that it goes with a lot of characters who have their energy in this game.
Right.
But overall, she's the one that's most like, well, that's kind of it. I'm fucked.
And then her nade is like basically a flat grenade. You throw it and it bursts into 5 different nades in front of her and just travels straight on.
Kind of hard to hit.
Yes, I've noticed it as well. It if you can throw it in a doorway, I think, as people are like coming through, it could work very well.
Yeah, and then her chain gun. Her chain gun is kind of cool. So basically, she's between a mid and a short range character. And so she's like, she doesn't master both of them, but if she plays just right on each field, she can be really good. When I say that is because her chain gun is inaccurate when you start firing at first, but it becomes more accurate the longer you fire it. And it also, shoots faster, of course, for that reason. So you can essentially start off by picking off somebody at the mid-range, getting closer with them, pulsaring them, and then after they get knocked away from pulsar, finish them off with the long-range chain gun, essentially.
Yeah, I've also noticed that after you stop firing the chain gun, it takes a little bit to reset to its like completely inaccurate kind of thing.
Yes.
So you could chain moves together like that and still have the same kind of accuracy.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and of course, she only has 50 rounds in her chain gun, though.
Yes, it has a very small clip, I've noticed.
Yes, so you really have to determine when to go into fight. You can't just be like, oh, there's a guy over there. Let me just start revving up my chain gun and just picking him off over a distance. Because a good player will be like, all right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and, get out of the way of cover first and then let your chain gun go back on cooldown. And now I'm going to fight you again because you have to rev it up, she used to be stronger in the previous patches, but they kind of nerfed the chain gun this way around.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of unfair, though, to be honest, because everybody else got buffs. And her kill potential isn't nearly as good as it used to be now. He has a lot of problems fighting characters. One in particular being the Titan, definitely now. The Titan just doesn't give 2 shits about the chain gun, and a good Titan who knows how to land his rockets will just wreck them.
Yeah, and then her ultimate is Starfall, I believe is what it is.
Starfall, yeah, Starfall is really cool. It's one of the most unique ultimates in the game. She basically flies up into the air, and then she slams down to the ground really hard. And of course, the closer you are to her, whenever she pounds down, the more damage she does. It does a really stupid amount of damage. It's pretty good. It doesn't insta kill, but it does about, I think, 250 as well. And after she lands on the ground, she causes a 0G
bubble.
Field. A bubble to happen in a certain radius. And basically, 0G is within that area for a good solid 10-15 seconds, which is a game changer if you coordinate with your team. Because everybody's like, oh, fuck, I'm in the air. What's going on here, man? And obviously, they have to risk using their mobility options because in 0G, they move slower outside if they're not using their mobility options.
And we'll actually come back to 0G in a bit as well because I have some things to say about that.
Yeah.
But I believe also we forgot one thing. Enforcer has a secondary weapon, doesn't he?
Oh, that's right. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, he has the shotgun pistol.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shotgun,
it's pretty good. It has an alt fire that changes its fire mode basically, or its spread pattern. It can change it to vertical or horizontal, kind of like Isaac in Dead Space. Actually, now I think about it.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about the pistol though is that there'll never be a moment where like, oh man, fucking one of my pellets went off my shock pistol. The spray on the shock pistol is
It's
the
tight.
same. It's tacked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's very tight as well.
it's very tight too. Yeah, so you can use it mid range.
Okay, and then Titan's next. She has a rocket launcher that does obscene amounts of damage.
Yeah.
What is her grenade?
Her grenade, it's basically a snare. It's a slow/snare. Any enemy that activates it, she can lay it on the ground or anywhere on a wall, and then if you get near it, it'll slow you down and it'll try to drag you into it. This is really good for locking down defensive positions where Titan excels at.
Yeah, I've noticed it as for being a rocket class. I've noticed it as a very defensive oriented character. It can lock down the battery sites pretty well if you're good with them. And then her shift is a ground pound that makes her jump and do damage.
Yeah, and the longer you hold it, the further she goes, the more damage it does too. And it has a bit of air control to it as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So if you know how to properly combo, you start off with the grenade, rocket, and then when they're in the air, ground pound, and then finish them off. It's a neat little combo.
Yeah,
and then of course she has secondary as well. It's basically like a
lightning gun.
It's a lightning gun, but I mean it's not like a long range lightning gun.
Yeah, it's not a Quake.
It's like medium range, if anything. It's cool. But it's really more of like I need to finish this guy off kind of weapon,
Yeah,
which is what will happen.
Yes, because the rockets, you only have how many rockets in the chamber?
Rockets.
4 rockets, and it takes a while to reload. So I find myself, if I don't give them with the first 2, if I get them with like splash or something, I'll just swap over and give them the quick lightning gun to finish them off.
Yeah, and the time to switch isn't that long either.
And I want to bring something up before we continue about the hit marker as well. It actually grows the more damage they're taken until it's completely full, and when it's completely full, they die. Is basically how that works.
Yeah,
so
cool.
When you shoot a person, you can see how much health they have left based on how big the hit marker is. And then the last class is assassin.
Yeah, so this one's this is like kind of like it's the fine line between what makes a good assassin and what makes a bad assassin. Everybody loves to fly to the assassin first, I've noticed. And you'll be able to pick off which ones are just absolute trash and they're absolutely really good. Asian picked him up right off the spot, and Asian of course started off a little wonky, and then he started like getting used to her, and like soon enough or later he was like actually hooking onto me as Vanguard, which is pretty fucking good if you ask me. Vanguard moves very fast, so I commend him for that. But the thing about her toolset is she's a melee and short range based character. She has some medium range, but the medium range option is very situational. Most of the time, you'll be doing your damage close up. Right. So her toolset is she has these 2 katanas, 2 blades that do a lot of damage. It'll kill most classes in about 3 to 4 hits. Titan takes about 5 or 6. But everybody else below 3 to 4, and it's very fast too. If she gets on you instantly, you're like, you better be ready to get the fuck out of there because you have no chance.
Yeah. Before we continue on that, I completely forgot. We forgot to say Titan's ultimate. You Hulk out, right. Get more health, and shoot electricity out of your hands.
That's literally it.
That's literally it. So
I mean, you get a lot of health, and you're just zapping people around.
You just zap people. You become Emperor Palpatine for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And okay, anyway, Assassin's grenades.
So Assassin's grenades, it's basically a concussion grenade. But the cool thing is, though, it makes a bubble after it blows up, and it redirects all projectiles in that area. So this is what makes her tool set, this is what allows her to get up close to people if she gets spotted. So her biggest threat is Titan right now. Because Titan just doesn't fuck around short range. Titan's like, oh, you're hitting me? All right, rocket jump. Boom, there you go. So the way she can counter this is by throwing down a grenade before engaging Titan and causing Titan to have to switch to the electricity gun or retreat. One of the two. That makes him really vulnerable, and that gives you a couple of free shots in there.
Yeah, and you can swing that sword pretty fast, too. So.
Oh, you can swing it very fast. And one of her mobility options with the sword is that she's able to grapple with it.
Yeah.
And she has 3 bars of grapple, and you can rip line around the whole map. It's really cool. I'd say between Vanguard and Assassin, if a good assassin knows how to move around the map, she can beat a Vanguard hands down. Like there's a lot of verticality to the maps, which I really love. So you'll see like a good assassin go literally from one side of the map to the other with just one grapple. That's how good you can get as an assassin, and especially now with the bunny hopping buff. Onto her second weapon though, her shotgun. So the stamina that's shared with the grappling hook is also with the shotgun. Her secondary with the shotgun allows her to do a little hop, a little dash here and there. Pretty nifty for getting out of tight situations where rockets coming at you, like, oh, gotta dodge that and some of that. However, it's it's not nearly as good as the grapple hook, and I think it could use a bit. I would prefer it if the grapple hook and the shotgun had separate stamina bars, to be honest.
Yeah, I've also noticed you can just press shift at any time to do a tiny little dash of momentum.
Yes.
And it uses a full grapple hook bar.
Yeah, right, basically. Which, again, comes down to energy conservation in this game,
Yeah. And then her ultimate is Frenzy. I don't actually know what that does beyond just making everybody see through walls.
So Frenzy gives you like X-ray vision and highlights all your enemies. In Frenzy, you do more damage and you get life back while attacking with the blades.
Okay.
Yeah, It's a really nice tool set that allows Assassin to get into the fray of a fight without having to get like fucking rolled on. So usually what you start off with, you zip line in, hit one guy and then start frenzying just after you're about to kill him, and then just go to the next guy. Constantly just getting health back, and you get a lot of health back too when you frenzy. By the way, it's very hard to stop at a good assassin during frenzy if they know what they're doing.
Right.
The best way to stop them is to just cut their mobility down, make them like a sitting duck, and just back up away from them.
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, that's I think all the classes.
Yes, that should be all of them that's in right now. I do want to say, while we're talking about abilities and abilities in general, I feel like there should be better notification or better ways to track your cooldowns. I find myself actually forgetting that I have them a lot of the time. Like, not grenades so much because of how short it is, and not so much like movement abilities because of how short they are. But the ultimate in particular, I once had it up like an entire match because I just completely forgot it existed and there was no notification that come up. Yeah. I think maybe a little sound notification when you get your ultimate, or like maybe a couple for the other abilities, maybe like a little flash of light or something. Just a little something to say, hey, your ability's ready again.
Yes, that would be wonderful for sure. There's times where I'm like, oh, hey, that's up now. And I think there's a very faint sound, but during all the mayhem, it's so hard to hear.
Right. And then, okay. And on map design, I don't really have much to say on the map design. There's only 2 maps. I don't really feel like judging that right now. I don't think I can with the information.
Yeah, me neither.
I will say, however, that I feel like the zero G, like this game's one big gimmick, right? Like the thing that sets it apart from all other shooters, is zero gravity, and the fact that zero gravity combat happens. I feel like zero gravity combat is really very, very, very underutilized in the current
I would agree.
build. Each map typically only has like one zone that's zero gravity, and the rest are outside like ability effects. The rest is just you walk around. The zero gravity is probably the most fun portion of the game, and unfortunately, because of the way the maps are like designed, there's very little incentive to actually go into the zero gravity zones when you don't have to. It's big open, you'll probably get shot.
Yeah, you just
most people just walk right around, or they'll go right through it. And there's even a button where you can shoot behind you, like you'll take whatever gun you have and start chucking bullets behind you to speed you up in those zero gravity zones. And like you just almost never go in there, you almost never use them, just because it's generally not a good idea to do so. And in a game like this, where its one gimmick is that, I very much feel like, with how underutilized the gimmick is, combat begins to feel very quickly, unfortunately, very samey, and very formulaic.
Yeah.
Zero gravity was the one big thing that was supposed to make like things go all over the place and like make the game what it is, and it's just not used as well as it should be right now.
Yeah, I think the main thing is that they need to add more zero G areas in the map that are smaller, but they're more abundant,
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to not have to just use the middle area to go faster. I would love it if there was a side detour of like a small little zero G dwell bubble. I could just and I have my own set path, you know.
Yeah.
So I would really prefer it if they added more of these zero G areas into the game. And by adding those more zero G areas, I would also like it if they increase the amount of movement you had, or a movement meter for your characters. You know, like Vanguard and Forcer and all those other characters. Give them more so they have that ability to zoom around in those areas. Because like nobody wants to fight in the middle when the battery's up. Everybody usually like fights on the outside or tries to go on the side to take them out. Anybody that's dumb enough to go into the zero G areas, and that's just a sitting duck, you know?
Yeah, and that's very much a shame because that is the one thing that this game really has going for it. Beyond all else is that zero gravity combat. Yeah. As long as I'm taking shots at the game, obviously there's plenty of room for improvement, but as long as I'm taking shots, each of the characters, right? Each of the classes we talked about, each has a separate character for Law and Breaker or whatever they call it. I forget what it is. Is it Law and Breaker?
It's Law and Breaker, you're right.
Okay, that's really, that hurts a little inside, but okay.
It's called Lawbreakers. What do you want?
Not that, like, overt of a pun, but, or not really a pun, but not that overt of a name drop. But okay, so I've played the game for a bit, not as long as OD has, but like when it comes to the characters and the classes itself, they don't really have any identity. And I don't like to use this because we just got off a topic of this on the fucking subreddit, and now I have to put strong language in the freaking header because I said fuck, God fucking damn it.
I said fuck a lot already too. Don't worry about it.
Oh well, shit. I have to do it anyway. Okay, so anyway, ignoring that. So they don't really have any character. Like it's if I had played like when I play the class and people are gonna start going, oh my god, Kihota, what are you doing?
Go on.
When I played Overwatch and I played Pharah, and people ask me later, it's like, oh, you played Pharah? Yeah, okay. It's like, yeah, I know her kit. It's rockets, it's the shift jump, etc. Like Mercy, oh yeah, she's the German girl with the healing staff and damage buff, etc., etc. Like Tracer, oh, it's the quirky one, the quirky British girl with the blink and the recall. Like you think of their names instead of their kit. You think of the character instead of the gun.
Yeah.
Like you think of likable characters. I mean, there's a subreddit out there literally called Pharmacy that's literally just almost entirely filled with pictures of Mercy and Pharah cuddling, and it's super cute. And but like that's what I mean. Like all the characters are loved enough that stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
In Lawbreakers, I don't really feel any connection to them, and perhaps it's just because the story isn't as developed yet, et cetera, et cetera. But when I think of the characters, I don't really think, oh yeah, it's that one. I think of, oh, it's the girl with the chain gun, or it's the class of the chain gun. I don't think of them as characters, and I think if they're going to survive in specifically this market right now in general, which is a shame because I really hate the concept of hero shooter. Total Biscuit probably said it best. It's kind of a non-genre. Like it's very undescriptive. All of the three big hero shooters you can only think of right now, Lawbreakers, Overwatch, Battleborn, all of them are entirely separate games and play very, very differently.
Yeah.
So I really don't like that. But people will instinctively compare them because they are hero shooters. Yes, and it does suck.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, like this game, you can outplay any other class in the game. There is no amount of like, well, you're playing this character and you're getting fucked because he's playing that character, which is what Overwatch has, you know?
Yes.
Nobody has a main in Overwatch, and that's for a reason because the game was designed to be that way.
Yeah.
In this game, a good assassin could take down a Titan without any effort if they know how to play well. And again, it comes in the same range of those old 90s shooters, you know, or early 2000s. You know, it came down to pure raw skill, which is what I love about Lawbreakers. You know, I've never had the intention to switch from Vanguard just because I was getting wrecked. You know, I just thought, you know, I got to think of a new method to go in. I got to wait for my team here, all this stuff like that. You know, and that's what's nice. TF2 has that as well. With some of his classes. There are some, you know, if you're playing engineer, though, obviously there's going to be some shit in that game that's going to fuck you over. But a good scout could take on a good soldier or a devil man, or even, God forbid, a pyro if there is ever a good one. I mean, there's not that many.
It's like the game itself puts a very, very high emphasis on player skill instead of tactical skill.
Exactly.
And there are reasons to have both, and there's reasons for like liking one style or the other style. I'm just saying that this in particular has a more emphasis on player skill than tactical skill.
And your styles will definitely show how well you play, you know?
Yeah.
If the enemy's too used to that style of character you're playing as, you're like, all right, you know, then let me give out my Titan. Let's see how he deals with that, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that. That's like the same thing of like switching weapons in like Call of Duty or some shit more recently, or even Titanfall for that matter, you know?
Yes. And there's a few more things I wanted to go over.
So back onto the characters though, actually. If you
go on, go ahead.
So the characters, they are, as like Kihota was saying, it's not as fleshed out. Overwatch has a huge budget on it and has a lot of time to develop, so it had a lot of comics there, had a lot of short videos to build everything like that, you know. And I'm okay with them not having this fleshed out yet. And I understand that when people come to it, they're like, "Fucking, what's this guy? He doesn't look interesting at all." You know, people are very judgmental. They judge by the cover instantly. You know,
and unfortunately, that will always be present, Odie. And I actually want to make another mention. The characters, the stories themselves, they feel generic and almost like a cringy generic. Like it's
which I kind of like, to be honest.
Yeah, but I don't like you. You can go fuck straight off.
Hold up. Let me explain. Let me explain here. Like, so if you remember playing Tribes, more or less the Tribes was in the same vein. Tribes characters were really flat. They didn't have a whole lot to them. Like, there was no in-depth dialogue. Everything that the Tribes characters were talking about was about the game, and that's about it. There was no like, wow, Heavy's fat or something like that, you know? Mm-hmm. But it was like, at the same time, though, it was charming, though. Tribes was charming, okay?
Yeah, I don't think this game has that charm. All I'm going to say is, like, I was playing the Rocket Girl on Law, and I killed some guy, and this was the only line I've actually heard out of the character, like, before. And she just goes, "I got that little bitch," and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, it's really over dramatized when they kill somebody like that. Like Kentaro, who is the breaker enforcer, will say, "Another kill for Kentaro," or say stuff like, "I'd pay for your funeral, but I'm not." Like it's really
dumb.
Yeah, it's really cringy, but I kind of like it because it's so shitty and cringy, you know.
I bet you like Borderlands too. I bet you like the writing of Borderlands. Don't you just love Borderlands?
I hate Borderlands.
You think it's great?
No. See, in a game like this, it works because it reminds me of like 90s, dude. Like in the 90s, writings for these kind of games were just like that. Like again, in Unreal Tournament, if you ever read the shit talking lines they
were bad. They were hilariously bad.
No, that was the glorious of it, dude. Yeah. Like the AI boss that could like learn how to aim and shit like that, you know. And
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I guess.
So it's really personal preference, but the good thing is though, the lines can be turned off.
There's actually a thing that I think that allows you to turn off profanity in the game in general, which is kind of funny because I think we all remember that setting in Gears of War and the "your mom was a classy lady" joke that came along with that one.
Yeah.
I kind of actually want a reference to that almost in this game. Like somebody actually streams that or something. I think that'd be
we'll have to check it out sometime. See if it's changed at all. But yeah, that's why it's very 90s and early 2000s-esque. That's why I like it. I have my own personal taste. I understand why people don't like it, and if you don't like it, that's totally fine. I can only hope down the road that they do flesh it out a bit more, but after the whole game is done, you know?
Yeah.
Gameplay first and then the aesthetics, you know?
Yeah. And then there's one more thing I want to mention in particular. Not to play the game, it's on Steam, but to engage in the forums and stuff like that, you have to have a Nexon account, because the game used to be free to play and was going to be published by Nexon. That's no longer true. It's now pay to play, but still published by Nexon. But Nexon just.
Well, I mean, Nexon doesn't have a good track record, but I do notice that they're not dipping their hands into this game like most of their products,
which is good.
Yeah. Which I think the reason why is because Cliff has like an outstanding reputation for his game design. You know,
you say that, but Nexon's also mostly a Korean company. So
that's
I don't
true.
Think they care.
That's true as well. They're just like, oh, it could be free money. We don't know. We should probably publish it. And
that's racist.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's really racist. What is wrong with you?
What? I'm sorry. Okay, I could have over dramatized it a bit, but I didn't want to. Anyway, going back to it though, Nexon works best when they don't dip their fingers in it. Dirty Bomb, when it first came out, was one of those games.
Yeah.
It had a really good, I think, free to play model for it. It was really easy to get characters, and they would constantly be giving away free characters if you kept updated. Like, here's a free fragger, here's a free, this guy.
Yeah,
and
it
all that
was.
stuff.
I didn't play much at the very beginning, mainly because I don't really like that League style of characters at all.
Yeah.
Or League style of like new character, buy it. And like, as a kind of like, I don't trust this. I'm not going to play it. I ended up being right. They released the new characters and they were ridiculously overpowered, and then they would get nerfed, and then they release a new character that's ridiculously overpowered, and then they get nerfed. So that ended poorly. But I don't think there's going to be any, or we don't. Actually, that brings up a good point. Do we know about any microtransactions or any plans for microtransactions and Lawbreakers at all?
They got rid of microtransactions.
Okay, so there's going to be no microtransactions.
You will buy the game and you'll get all the cosmetics.
Wonderful. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, then we shouldn't have that issue in this game at all.
Yeah, exactly. Again, like I prefer this pay model because
Yeah, well, I do too.
It's a way better community, and it's also Nexon doesn't dabble in it. Like they don't try to force in their agenda. Like, hey, you're not making enough money. Think you can make some shitty cosmetics that people want to buy instead of focusing on actual things that matter.
Yeah, I mean, there's places for cosmetics. I honestly do like cosmetics as a monetary source of income for games.
I understand.
But with that said,
games like Combat Arms, though, like you go to that.
Don't even go there.
Exactly. Like, yeah.
And then I have one more point I wanted to go over. This one's obviously just personal, like what I've seen, but the community's been kind of angry, I've noticed, and I don't really know why.
I think it varies personally.
It does. What matches I've played though, it's like in Overwatch I'll usually get one or two before I get the GG easy. Well, you guys are hackers. Ugh. My very first match and my very first two matches actually in Lawbreakers. Was this one guy just basically screaming, "Oh my god, this team is so bad, get good!" And I'm like, dude, it's
an
alpha.
Yeah, chill the fuck out.
Yeah, it was very. I don't know why. It just seemed to pop up very quickly. So I'm not. Maybe it's just some of the people who got in extremely early.
Maybe the new people that are just ushered in.
It could be that as well.
Yeah. When my first experience, I was playing Vanguard and I was fighting these really good guys on the other team. And they acknowledged me like, "Hey, OD, why don't you just join the Discord?" And sure enough, I joined them, and I'm mates with them, and they're really good guys.
Yeah.
So I have had a great time with the community so far. That's not to say that everybody that plays the game is
of
good,
course
though.
not. Yeah.
And there will be times where there'll be AFK, and they'll be sitting there, and you're like,
that's something. The game doesn't have an AFK timer yet. I don't.
It doesn't. Yeah.
So I've actually had that was in my first match as well. Somebody AFK'd at the very beginning of the match and just never came back. So he's just sitting in spawn.
Yeah.
Also, that brings up something I completely forgot. You can get spawn locked in your spawn if the enemy team wants to, so they may need to adjust spawn zones and stuff. Because I've had a game where the enemy team, we just literally sat outside their spawn and killed them before they could come out. It was nasty.
Yeah, there's somebody made a post of that actually too.
Yeah.
They said the block off spawns a bit more, which I think would be fine. The best thing to do is either A, add more existent entrances, or B, just make it a punishing to be that far in,
Yeah.
Just there just needs to be either more of a tactical advantage or more of a gameplay, like no fly zone area, One of the two. I would prefer if they did a tactical advantage. That's just me personally. So just more existent entrances so that they can't cover all grounds, and it becomes kind of like you fucked up for doing that. Now you're gonna pay for it,
Yeah, and I think different game modes may actually change that as well.
That's true. That is absolutely true.
And then, before we go into closing, OD, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
I just want to say, if you get into the game, play it, really on contact with the devs, talk to them. They're really awesome. The community, from my experience, is pretty good. It's not a finished product, though. Like I said, there are some things that I disagree about, and I do wish that they would change. But overall, though, break this game, play it, give your input on it, do all that stuff. Because, it's you as a whole, the community, are in charge of making this game fun. And if you like to have fun and you see potential in this game, then
I hate fun. I hate fun.
I know you do.
Fun sucks.
I know. That's why you're here making this right now. So yeah, if you just really want to make a difference, and you want your opinion to be heard, I'm not going to guarantee that it is going to be heard. But if you have good ideas and you think what gameplay is, if you have like a long experience of competitive games, no less, then you should definitely try it out and go sign up and play it.
Okay, thank you. Odie is a member of TFG, and he also makes source filmmaker stuff. His YouTube will be in the description below. thank you for watching, and this has been Fast Talk Episode 3, Rule of Law, with me, Kihota, and Odie.
All right,
See
bye.
you around.